Hawaii emergency management officials are urging residents to be prepared in the unlikely case of a nuclear strike. Our Allison Blair joins us with what they're advising residents to do. Allison.
Yes, Stephanie, Hawaii doesn't have fallout shelters. Officials say even if we did, you probably wouldn't have enough time to get to one. That's why in the unlikely event there is an attack, emergency officials want you to get inside, and stay tuned. Once the emergency alert system is activated, you'll have between 12 and 15 minutes before the impact. During a briefing this morning at the state capitol, officials from the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency said an attack from North Korea is very unlikely, but added the state can't ignore the threat. That's why everyone needs a plan. If you're indoors, stay indoors, away from any windows. If you're outdoors, seek immediate shelter. And if you're driving, officials want you to get out of your car, get inside a building if you can. If not, lie flat on the ground.
Back here at home, tomorrow the agency in charge of getting Hawaii prepared for a nuclear attack by North Korea will lay out a scenario. The Hawaii Emergency Management Agency will present it at a public meeting at the state capitol. Officials will talk about what to do before and after a nuclear attack. The agency says since we would have only 15 minutes after a missile is launched, we should be rehearsing what we'll do.
Where would I go if I'm driving down the street at this particular, I'm going to work, I'm going to school, I'm going to the grocery store. Think about where you would go. Look for buildings, looking for parking structures so that you're aware of it, so it doesn't come as a complete surprise to you.
Just like any other disaster, from tsunamis, hurricanes, whatever, now we have another concern that we should start thinking about how we're going to react if this threat materializes.
The Emergency Management Agency has already begun training key organizations. Tomorrow's informational meeting starts at 10:30 a.m. in the state capitol auditorium.
조치에 대해서는 더 구체적으로 말씀해 주실 수 있습니까?
어떤 조치가 되겠는지는 우리 국무위원장 동지께서 하시는 일이기 때문에 저는 잘 모릅니다.
What kind of measure it will be, I don't really know, because it will be done by chairman of the State Affairs Commission of the DPRK.
내 생각에는 아마 역대급 수소탄 지상시험을 아마 태평양상에서 하는 것으로 되지 않겠는가.
But I might guess that chairman of the State Affairs Commission has a decision to conduct strongest ever hydrogen bomb test in the Pacific Ocean.
You can hear the siren blaring and people are hiding behind walls, running inside buildings. Others have run to the local schoolhouse, which is where we've been told they can take refuge.
一回経験して、経験ってばのおじだらなともならないんだけど、まずどういうものかなと思って来ました。
その窪地の中へ隠れるだとか、ブロック塀のところに避難するだとかっていうそういうもので、果たしてミサイルが飛んできて効果があるもんだかどうだかっていうのも。
Of course, this is all just a drill, but the fact that a drill like this is happening in Japan is a sign of the times, because no one here has thought about air attack since the end of the Second World War. But in the last 6 months or so, these sorts of drills have started happening in towns and villages all along this Sea of Japan coast.
Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters. Colonel Peters, always good to see you, and thank you for coming on. I know I'm starting kind of worst case and working our way back, but if they do go forward with that test, that's the threat from the foreign minister, how would the president respond?
Well, I don't think anybody really knows, because when you're presented with it, suddenly things can look different. But an atmospheric hydrogen bomb test anywhere in the Pacific would be an order of magnitude greater threat-wise. It would tell us that their program has really leapt forward. Of course, depending on where it was detonated, you got the possible radiation in the atmosphere carried by the winds. Depending on where it's detonated, you have a possibility of EMP, electromagnetic pulse, doing a great deal of damage. Does it fly over Japan? I mean, that would be as close to an overt act of war as anything we've yet seen.
Would it need one of those variables that you mentioned, flying over Japan, getting close to a U.S. territory, to be a, quote, act of war, or is it just the act of testing a hydrogen bomb over the Pacific Ocean in and of itself enough to say it's an act of war?
Well, unless it has a direct impact and influence traceable to the bomb, it's not technically an act of war. Okay. If you fly armed fighter planes over Japan's airspace, it's an act of war. But we're vague on missiles. If a missile outside of the Earth's atmosphere goes over, well, then we don't really know. So North Korea plays this very well under the terms of international law. But they need to be careful, because the North Koreans have been used to bluffing us and getting their way, and us never responding for the last quarter century. And now you've got a president who is unpredictable. Just as your first question to me was,
you didn't know.
What will the president do? I'm not sure he knows, because, again, you wait till the event. The event tells you how to act.
And one of the options, I guess, I mean, there's been talk about it, that maybe we shoot one of these missiles down at some point. Are we getting close to that point, where if there is another missile test, there's a shoot down of the missile?
Well, if the missile were on a trajectory to harm U.S. territory or our allies, we would make every effort to shoot it down. If it's headed to the middle of nowhere, it makes more sense for us to actually track it, read the telemetry, the technical aspects of it, to know how far they've perfected their missile technology. Plus, there's actually a psychological component. If it's headed to the middle of nowhere, and we try to shoot it down, and it's a public failure, that strongly encourages Kim Jong-un, because our missile defenses have made enormous improvements, but they're not yet infallible, which is one more argument why, if China doesn't live up to its global responsibilities, if China doesn't step up, if China doesn't crack down brutally hard on North Korea's economy, mercilessly hard, this is going to end the war.
Well, you know, if they do, though, and I said I would start worst case and work our way back, and I think we've gotten to that point now. If they do, we could be in a pretty good situation if you take the glass half full version of what happened yesterday, and the president talking especially about the Chinese central bank getting involved. And if the Chinese follow through on what we think they're going to do, we don't officially know what they will do, but if I know it's a big if, but if they follow through, that could be what we need, right?
Well, if they follow through. I know. There were two really encouraging things that happened within the last 48 hours. Well, within the last 24 hours, Kim lashed out. The North Koreans lashed out at China. That's new. That suggests that they're starting to feel some real pain. The other thing was this still unofficial announcement that the Central Bank of China will push all the other Chinese banks to stop dealing with North Korea. But let's see what the details are. First of all, it's not about loans. It's about the money transfers, the money laundering, etc. So if China really were to crack down, they could paralyze what's left of the North Korean economy. But again, will China do what it always has done in the past, talk a good fight, but then turn a blind eye to smuggling, etc. Plus, you've got the Russian factor. The Russians, out of Vladivostok, are carrying on a very lucrative smuggling trade with North Korea, and Putin's just delighted to see the U.S. fixated on North Korea, because it means he can do what he wants elsewhere. So there are a lot of moving parts here. But yes, we can be encouraged by China's announcement. Let's see what they do.
The ultimate devil in the